So just to get our brain flowing, think about what we learned yesterday. We have this rectangle. It is a 5 by 7. What is the area of this shape? What is the area of this shape? What does the area measure? When I'm using area, what am I doing? Autumn, when I'm using area, what am I doing? You don't know, you need to be looking back in your notebook. We did this yesterday. Annabella, what does area measure? I'm not calling you again, you better answer. Again, if you don't know, look back in your notebook. We're not sitting there on them. Turn the page where you took notes yesterday. Bailey? I'm counting the space inside my shape, whatever that is. Now, this shape, I can do some tricks with. So, because this shape looks like another shape that I already know, I can do some tricks with it. Okay. I can do some shortcuts with it. If it was this crazy shape, I would have to count all my squares. And I could count all those squares. But what does this shape look like? What does this shape look like? It looks like an array. And if something's an array, what math can I use? Right? Multiplication. Rows by columns. So I'm going to have 7 times 5. What is 7 times 5? You should all be able to figure that out. Quick skip counting. Azalea?
35.
It is 35. Now, it's not just 35. I can write 35.
It's 35 feet.
It is not feet. I didn't tell you what I was using. So what we're going to put there is just units. Unit is anything. So if you see the word unit, it's really just saying whatever you measured. It could be feet, it could be inches, it could be miles, it could be centimeters, it could be anything. But since it's units, because we don't know exactly what it is, I'm still going to make it units squared. Going to put my little 2 there, units squared. So the area of this shape is 35 units squared. Does that make sense? Alright, let's talk about area a little bit more. What units do I usually use when I measure area? Think about all the things you could measure. Could you measure yourself?
Yeah.
Could you measure how much you weigh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's measuring. Could you measure how much water to put in a mix?
Yeah.
Or how much sugar to put in a mix? Yeah, that's measuring. So, what units do I use to measure? What would be something that would be a unit that I could use to measure something? Brandon? Yards. Yards will measure area. I can use yards to measure area. Right? So what do you think? Feet. Feet will measure area. Centimeters will measure area. Lucy? Inches will measure area. What about pounds?
Yes.
Can you use a pound to measure how much space something takes up?
No. Pound is how much something weighs.
A pound is how much something weighs. I cannot use pounds. What about gallons?
Yes. Yes.
You can use gallons to measure area.
No. Yes. Yes.
Do you know what a gallon is?
Yeah. A gallon is like a gallon of milk, or a gallon of water, or a gallon of.
Do you know how they figured out it was a gallon?
By reading a label. Gallon.
It's a weight. It's a weight. So you cannot use gallons to measure area. What about miles?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. What about ounces?
No. What about liters?
No, you cannot use ounces. Ounces measure weight. I don't want to measure how heavy something is. I want to measure the area. You can use any unit that measures distance. So go ahead on the next blank page or somewhere in your notebook, title, what do we use to measure area? And then you're only going to write the first sentence. I'm not going to make you write this whole thing. No. So we got other things to do. We use units that measure distance. That's why we can't use pounds. Pounds don't measure distance. Pounds measure weight, how heavy something is. We can't use ounces. Ounces don't measure distance. Gavin, you should be writing. We need something that measures distance. Now, we can be a little picky with what units we use. There's many units that measure distance. Units that are small can be used to measure small items because they'll be more precise, more exact. Large items can be measured using larger units. Are we going to use inches to measure around the earth? No. That is, you could, but that would take forever. We're going to use miles, a much bigger unit. No. Yes, ma'am.
What about acres?
Acres are a big unit of measure. I don't really remember exactly how big an acre is, but it's up there with miles. I'm sure you have. So we're looking for things that measure distance. Once you've got that, I want you to split your paper into 3 categories. Small, medium, you see with your mask on, and large. So sometimes we want to measure the area of a small thing. For instance, in my house, I'm trying to figure out what sink to buy. Because if you ever pay attention to a sink, it kind of sits in the counter.
Yeah.
So I need to know the area. A sink is not very big, right? Turn and look at the sink. Is that a big item? No. I'm going to put that in the small category. What units could I use to measure something small? Like a sink. Maybe a pencil. Something that would be small. Bryce, what do you think? What is it? Inches measure small things very well. The reason we use small units like inches is because we're able to get a more exact answer. Inches work great. Can you think of anything else you might use to measure something small? Adrian? Okay, Ethan?
Centimeters?
Centimeters are small. smaller than inches. They would be great units if I was measuring something small.
Really small. Like an apple, maybe.
My shoe, I could measure in centimeters. I'm not going to measure my shoe in miles.
You're not gonna
That
measure
doesn't make any sense.
You're not gonna measure.
If I'm measuring something small, I need something small. Can you think of anything else? Anything else that would be really small that you could use? Armin?
It's a thing you could use like a paper clip or
Yeah.
something to measure.
So when you were in first grade, you used non-standard units of measure. So you use gummy bears, you use paper clips, you use counters. Yes, you can use those. In third grade, we're getting away from that. We're going to stick to standard units of measure because guess what? Your gummy bear and my gummy bear might be different. But an inch is always an inch. Do you see what I'm saying? So we're going to start with just standard units of measure. Anyone know any other small ones? Gavin?
Kilometers.
Kilometers are not small.
I think you're medium.
Emma?
What a foot?
Nope. Foots are too big. Got it? Was it? Kilometer is way too big. Right? What? So this is exactly what I was just telling Arwen. We're sticking with standard units of measure. So my hand and your hand are going to be different sizes. We want to stick to something that's the same size always. Eliana? Millimeters. Millimeters are even smaller than centimeters.
What? Yep.
Millimeters. So these are our common small units of measure. If you're measuring something that's pretty small, you're going to be measuring with inches or centimeters, or if it's really small, you might even use millimeters. So now let's go to medium-sized things. Medium-sized things would be like people. People are medium-sized. It might be doors. Doors are pretty medium-sized when we think about how big things can be. Cars. Cars are medium-sized. We could have way bigger things like a whole school. So we're going to stick with those medium-sized things. What could I use to measure medium-sized things like people, or cars, or doors? You with me? Adria? Feet. Feet. Or a foot. This is not your literal foot. It's a very specific distance. There's a certain number of inches that makes up 1 foot. Does anybody know how many inches are in 1 foot? It might be helpful. A ruler is typically 1 foot. Azalea? 12? 12 inches is equal to 1 foot. 12 inches is equal to 1 foot. Can we think of anything else that we might use for medium size? What do you think? We can use yards. We can use yards. This is a yardstick. It is 1 yard long.
And that is 3 feet.
It is 3 feet. So feet to yards, 3 feet equals 1. The shorthand for yard is YD. Yard. What do you mean, how long is a football field? How many yards are on a football field? It's printed on the field.
10. 100. No, not 100.
It's 100 yards.
Oh.
Come on, dude. Next time you pay attention, look at the field.
I haven't been looking at the field in a long time.
All right, we got yards. There's one more. Meters.
Yes. The meters bigger.
This is a meter stick.
Is that the stick we were using for the donut business?
Yeah.
Okay.
Notice meters and centimeters have the same word family happening.
Equal.
That is because they are connected. On here you can see centimeters. They're very small. It takes 100. cm is centimeters is equal to 1, just a plain m is meter. 100 centimeters equals 1 meter.
So meters like the exact same thing.
Right, so far.
Yep.
We're not there yet. So these are going to be our 3 main units of measurement.
What about the large?
We're not there yet. We're just on medium. So again, it wouldn't make sense to measure my door in inches.
No.
It's going to take too long. I could, but it's not going to be the most, it's not going to make the most sense. It's going to be more efficient if I use the medium category like feet, yards, or meters. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the large category and think very large. What are some large units of measure that I would use to measure really long things? Emma? Miles. Miles are very long. They're connected with feet. Does anyone know how many feet are in a mile?
5?
Adelia? No.
No. 5,230 feet.
5,230 feet are in 1 mile.
That is crazy.
A lot of miles. I mean, a lot of feet.
A lot of centimeters.
Can you think of something else that you might use to measure a really long distance? Scarlett? Okay, so we could use acres. I'm not entirely sure how big acres are. Acres are typically used to measure. Stop talking over me. Acres are usually used to measure land. So, for instance, when I bought my land, it was an acre and a half, which means it was a full acre plus a half acre. It's just like this big space.
How big is it?
I don't know how to quantify it. It's big. It's big. Right? Kilometers.
Oh, that's...
Kilometers are connected to meters. I don't remember the conversion. But you can see they're in the same word family. We see meters in there. Brayden? Do what? Oh, yeah.
That didn't happen.
This is what happens when you talk and write at the same time. Any other really large, put your mask on, Ethan, large units of measure that you know? Ethan?
I don't know any, but how many inches would it take to do a mile? 1 mile.
So, you would have to multiply 5,230 by 12 to figure out how many inches in a mile. Well, you could do 500 or 5,230 times 10, which will bring you to 52,300.
Times 2 more.
times 2 more, which is about 10,000, so about 54,000. All I did was break apart. The same strategy you know. I broke apart 12 into 10 and 2. I multiplied 5,200 by 10, and then I multiplied it by 2. That's all I did.
So hard.
That's because I did it quickly, but you know what to do. Alright, I'm going to pause this so you can get all these notes down. It's important that we use the right unit. It does not make sense for me to be making a skirt and trying to measure it in acres. So we need to be aware of these units so that I'm using the correct one. If I'm going to be measuring this room, what unit do you think I might use? Ethan, we have got to start raising our hand, friend. If I'm going to measure this room, what unit might I use? Eliana, what do you think?
Probably one of the things in the medium.
Yeah, I would probably use medium. The size of a room is pretty medium. I would likely use, I could use my yardstick. I could use feet. Would it make sense to use inches?
No.
No. Could I?
Yeah,
I could. But it would not be the most efficient way. What about if I want to measure, let's see. Oh, what if I want to measure the length of Topsail Island? What unit would I use? I want to do the whole island. I want to know how long it is. Grace, what do you think?
Maybe once in a large.
Yeah, I'm probably going to use a mile because that's what we're used to, but I could use kilometers. Acres is more about area as opposed to a straight distance, so I'm probably not going to use acres, but I can use miles and I can use kilometers. Does that make sense? Yeah? All right, so what I want you to do, all right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to call up a friend. I'm going to pick a object. I'm going to drag it to the yellow flower. My friend, whoever gets to get picked, is going to figure out what might be the appropriate unit of measure to measure that thing. So the things that we have are all on the left. We have a car, we have the distance around the sun, height of a building, a pencil, a paper clip. Okay? All right, so Adria, you're going to go first. Adria, I want you to tell me what would be the most appropriate unit to measure the distance around the sun. Come on up. You're going to drag whatever option you think to the pink flower. So we have inches, meters, feet, miles, and centimeters.
Miles?
All right, drag it. Right on that pink flower. Yep. Distance around the sun is going to be measured in miles. All right, Emma, I want you to tell me what might be the most appropriate for a paper clip. Much smaller. So we have inches, meters, feet, and centimeters.
Yeah, I know it. I know it.
Paper clips are really small. Bailey, what do you think might measure a paper clip? Paper clips are very, very small. Something even smaller, let's see. Yes, centimeters, even smaller. Even smaller. All right, Lucy. Do a car.
I don't want
A couple of different options. Maybe feet. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Grace Jansen.
Let it go.
All right. How about a pencil? We have inches or meters. It's a little delayed. Yes. All right, Miranda.
Height.
Height of a building. The height of a building.
How does that go? I didn't say that in my
So I can measure how tall a whole building is with a large unit like a meter. Easy peasy. All right, crew. I might put this up so you can practice on your own. Not right now. But what we're going to do is we're going to be using our graph paper. I have 2 problems that I'm going to give you. I'm going to let you do this in partners.
Yes.
Listen carefully to my directions. So 2 problems means that 1 gets glued at the top, 1 gets glued in the middle. You're going to figure out the answer sentence. Easy peasy, we've been doing that for forever. You're going to get out the graph paper that you used yesterday and draw whatever shape it's trying to describe. When you solve the total area, either by counting all the squares, using your multiplication, doing skip counting, whatever strategy you use, make sure you write that on the inside and then cut it out and glue it in your notebook because that's going to be your model or your work. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right.